Hello lovelies, and welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you're returning. My name is Candy. I talk all things doll collecting here on my channel. Now today it's Sunday and I thought I would start a new series called Calm Collecting Sundays, because I have to say in the last few days or weeks my collecting has felt like it's been full of chaos and chasing and buying. It's been drowning in the sea of consumerism, and I want to grab a breath. I want to surface, as it were, from the chase for dolls. And recently in one of my comment sections we were talking about this, and some viewers were saying sometimes they feel a slave to consumerism, and it's felt a bit like that for me this month. Now, am I going to preach about low buy, no buy? No, I'm not, because I, like any doll collector or any collector of anything really, the consumerism is part of it. We are on the hunt for the new for the collection. That's what collecting is, and I am not immune to this. A case in point, this arrived a few days ago. This is full of dolls. This is one order from February, so it would be a bit hypocritical of me to come on here and start preaching about the horrors of consumerism. And parcels like that for me are quite rare really. I am a doll collector on, I think, quite a low budget really, but there's been a lot of money spent this February, and looking back over the last 2 years, year and a half of coming back to doll collecting after a big break of 25 years, I have realised that my spending comes in fits and starts depending on what the manufacturers are doing or if lines are coming to an end. I know towards the end of last year, or in the middle of last year it might have been, there were a load of lines, shadow high lines, rainbow high lines, that were all coming to an end, and I'd sat on all the dolls. They'd reduced down, they'd reduced down again, and I was beginning to see things go out of stock. So at that point I jumped and bought everything that I'd been waiting on. So that month the spending on dolls was through the roof. A lot of those purchases then got put aside for my birthday in November, for Christmas as well. So it got spread out. Me opening the dolls, or not, they're still not open, but receiving the dolls got spread out. But the purchase and that race to shops and the spending and being caught up in the lines and the consumerism and not missing out and FOMO, that was limited really to that month. And I feel like February has been another one of those months. Shadow High Series 3 is coming to an end here in the UK. Some of the Rainbow High lines are all ending. Of course, we've got the reboot about to happen. There are Monster High lines that I've realised not only are coming to an end, but I've probably missed out on by waiting too long. But in the FOMO and the chase for all of those dolls I've been waiting on, I have felt that franticness coming in, those chains to make me the slave to consumerism. It was mentioned in my comment section, so it's not just me feeling that chaotic rush of doll collecting. So I thought, how about once a week on a Sunday I create a space where I can shed and cleanse the FOMO, to cleanse off that frenetic energy and to undo the chains that may have clasped themselves around me. How about on a Sunday to make a conscious effort to slow down, to resurface for a breath, to pause, and to restate an intention to do calm collecting, where the FOMO and the consumerism doesn't engulf us too much. Although I will say again, collecting does involve consumerism on some level. Now, a lot of my dolls, if they're not sale bought, they're second-hand bought or they're thrifted, so that does help bring the calm in. But I have realised in February, buying new dolls, I've had to consistently remind myself it's okay to miss out, because I do love to save dolls. And I think today I'm going to touch on one doll today, just to remind myself, so I'm talking to me as much as to you, about how beautiful it is to do calm collecting with, in this case, virtually zero budget. So let me take the phone off the stand and take you to a shelf over here. So on this shelf, these are all my Mycene Barbies. Now all of these were bought second hand. There isn't a single doll here that was more than £20. In fact, most of them were £15 or under. I have a very small collection. This is my reconciliation collection, because it's actually the Mycene Barbies that stopped me from collecting 25 years ago. I was so cross with Mattel for not staying loyal to the original Barbie in the face of the competition of Bratz, even though I had refused to buy Bratz even though I wanted them, and had been in a real dilemma for months. And then Mattel couldn't even stay loyal to Barbie. They brought Mycene in, and I was so mad about it when I'd not bought any Bratz that I down tools completely on doll collecting for 25 years. So it's a shame really, because I loved Bratz and I loved Mycene, and I missed out on all those releases. I also missed out on all of the continued release of 2000 Barbies. Oh my gosh, doll collecting regrets, but there you go. So when I came back to collecting, as a reconciliation, I really wanted to dip my toe into Mycene dolls, and these are the few that I've got. I would say the average cost of these is about £10 each, so not chasing down huge expenses here on this shelf. Now, one of my Mycene dolls, in fact probably my favourite, isn't on here, and I'm going to show you my journey with her as a story time for my collection, which really does embody that idea of slow collecting. Because from the same seller that I was buying these from, one month I ordered another Mycene doll. When it arrived, they'd sent me completely the wrong doll. They'd sent me a doll that was broken. It was absolutely filthy. Its hair had been chopped. Its hair was so dirty I didn't think it could be saved at all. When I contacted them, they were mortified. They'd already given the doll I'd actually bought away to somebody else, and they admitted they'd made a complete mistake, and they told me just to throw her in the bin. She was going to be a doll that they were going to chuck out anyway, because she was in such bad disarray. So for a while she sat on my shelf, and then I got so sad for her, because I know what it feels like to be discarded and chucked out, and I just felt her little voice whispering to me that nobody wanted her. Even the people selling her didn't want her. She'd been sent to me and I didn't want her, and I felt so sorry for her. But it was only slowing down and listening to the little whispers of that doll, and I do think our dolls can hold whispers for us when we slow down enough to listen. So I think the first message of Calm Collecting Sundays is to slow down enough to listen to the whispers of your collection. And that brings into play that idea of animism, that every object has its own energy, its own inherent voice, which I believe very strongly in. I think if I sit with any of these dolls for long enough, they will begin to whisper stories to me, if only I can slow down enough. When I'm chasing the next doll, I can't hear those whispers. So the whisper that this new Mycene doll, this broken, hacked hair, filthy Mycene doll was whispering, was one of not being wanted, and it broke my heart. And me and her went on a little mission to put that right, to rebalance the universe for me and this doll, and I filmed the journey, which I haven't shared yet, and I'm going to share now with you all. So this is her, and you can see by the state she's in that she really was unloved when she came to me. So they refunded my money and they just told me to throw her away. They didn't even want her back. So she actually came to me in the end completely free and forlorn. And I just couldn't ignore the little whispers coming from her. So I decided to go on a journey with her to try and clean her up and fix her. She had a slightly cracked neck. Her hair had been hacked at, was different lengths. It was absolutely filthy. She was filthy. She had stains on her forehead. And to be honest, I've never ever attempted to save a doll in this way before that meant a little bit more work than normal. Now, I was going to wash her and then cut off all of the few remaining long bits of hair and try and give her a bob. But as I was washing her, again, spending that quiet time with her, a very clear voice whispered to me, please don't cut any of my hair. And I couldn't ignore it. So I was left with trying to condition and work out the incredibly bad tangles in just the odd strand of the remaining long hair that was left. I think it would have been so much easier just to try to have cut her a short sort of bob, but at the end of the day, if I'm being led by tiny soul whispers of my dolls, then I needed to listen. So those long strands remained. And it was doing this process and listening to those whispers that connected me to this doll more than any of those other dolls on my My Scene shelf that I've just shown you. I think with any relationship, whether it be with something in our collection or a real life person, relationship grows when you give time and attention. And that doesn't happen when you're always chasing after the next doll, the next purchase. So she was all nice and clean here. I'd managed to get the stain off her forehead, and then just for her decency, I dressed her in, I think this is a Descendants doll dress, just to cover up her modesty, while I attempted to come up with some sort of plan for her hair. At this point, I didn't even have any proper clear hair bands for doll hair. I'd just got my own thin hair bands that I'd found around the house. So you can see I'm going into this project as a complete newbie. But it was just so lovely to sit with her and just see if we could devise anything that would work for her. Oh my gosh, look at the hair. You can see it's been hacked, and then there's only the odd long strand. I think here I was saying in my head, are you sure you don't want this hair cut? And time again, I got the same little whisper, a voice inside my own head whispering, please don't cut my hair. Now, what is that voice? Is it a haunted doll? No, probably not, although it could be. Is it just my own imagination? Yes, probably. But my own imagination is very much the energy of the doll I'm holding, and I believe that that's where magic lies. So I tied her hair into a high ponytail just to try and disguise the fact that most of it is hacked off. And then I raided my sewing and craft and art supplies for anything at all that I could possibly use that would make her into this sparkly, amazing girl that I know that she wants to be. So I found some sparkly edging out of my journal supplies, and I brought up some threads and some beads that I'd got, and I basically started sewing her hair decorations in place because I couldn't think of any other way to do it, and it was just so much fun. But the most important thing about actually doing this isn't what her hair looks like at the end. It's the process, because in that process, her story began to be told inside my own head, which in turn impacted my story. And the story that began to unfold was the idea of soul reclamation, of reclaiming parts of the doll that she thought had been lost, reclaiming the shiny bits, the bits that had been abandoned, with every person that said she's worth nothing, just throw her away. It was very much a story of collecting lost parts of herself and putting her crown back in place. It was really emotional and impacting to hear this story play out in my head as I sat quietly working on her hair. And in turn, it impacted those parts of me that resonated with her story, those parts of me that I felt in days gone by had been betrayed and discarded. So eventually, having sewn some beads and some diamantes into her hair, she looked like this, and I just loved her. In a little bag of second-hand oddments, I found this bat and put that in the back of her hair as well. With the addition of that bat, the idea of a nocturnal soul, something that comes out at night and can feel the way forward, came into play into her story. And with that idea of soul reclamation, I imagined her walking the forests at night, collecting the lost parts of herself and of other people. And she became the soul collector. I gave her her own title. I gave her also a vintage whistle necklace, and for me that became part of the story. A whistle to blow to bring the lost parts of people's soul to her in the middle of the night in the woods. You can see how by calming the chaos of collecting down and sitting and savouring just one doll, how stories can emerge. And it was just magical. A soul collector with a pet bat accompanying her into the woods at night to find the lost parts of people's souls. She became a shadow work doll, a doll to help people reclaim lost parts of themselves. She became quite witchy because of this as well. The dress I ended up giving her was also like a 10p dress from a charity shop bag. I re-sewed it to fit her frame, and I just loved her. When I put her back on the shelf, no longer was she the doll I was about to throw out, but she was the central doll of the shelf, admired by everybody. I found a little second-hand pair of black boots that suited her more as well, and slowly over time her story is beginning to evolve, and it carries on evolving. I'm still not finished with her. So fast forward 5 months, and she now has become the queen of the Mycene shelf, from that abandoned, broken doll that I was being told to just throw away. Her voice has come through, and now I love her so much. I've probably spent more time with this doll than any other doll in the doll room. And although I know that some professional and experienced doll makeover people may be cringing at her hair, for me it is just a journey. It's been wonderful to start this. Now the necklace, the vintage necklace, I just loved that as part of her story. The necklace to call back parts of people's souls as she walked the woodland at night. And the vision of her walking a woodland, I actually saw in a dream, and I saw this dress as well in the dream. She was in this flimsy, see-through dress that the moonlight was shining through in my dream. And when I bought a tiny little bag of bits and bobs from the charity shop, because there was some doll clothes in there, when I opened it up, that very dress was in there. And although I've had to sew it to fit her, it's just perfect. It fitted the vision totally, along with the second-hand black boots as well that I found. So that story emerging has just been so amazing, and you can see I've been buying other bits as well as the story continues to emerge. She now has a little black cat, a familiar to walk the woods with her at night, as well as the bat in her hair. She has a candelabra with candles to light the way as well. In the vision in my dream, I saw her holding either a lantern or a candelabra up to find the way. And then I also brought the teeny tiny little corked jars as well. Each of those jars to hold a little piece of soul that she finds as she walks the woods. I've still got to find ways to join these to her hands so that she's actually holding them, but that will be the next job. So you can see, although I have bought little bits and pieces for her, those are bought in the months where I wasn't buying dolls, in the fallow months of doll collecting. And I think in a month where it's been spend, it's just really nice to remind myself of the magic that's to be found in this calm collecting and this calmer way of interacting with my collection, rather than chasing the next purchase or the next doll. There is so much magic to be found here. It does become the joy of missing out rather than a fear of missing out, to slow it down, to bring no more purchases in, and just to love spending time with what I've got. Her story as the soul collector would never have emerged without this slow, calm collecting time. I've now got ideas to build dioramas for her of woodland scenes, and I can't wait for that to be the next journey we take together. So calm collecting, guys, it is such a treat. There is no FOMO within this whatsoever. So if you too are feeling that call of lines ending and the must-have of the next doll, if FOMO has got you and consumerism is making you feel chained, then I hope this moment just to stop and reflect on calm collecting this Sunday has helped. So thanks guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time in the doll room. Bye.